Hi, Steve McGill here. I want to talk more about teaching a beginner how to three-step. So, in the previous video, I talked about how it's important to, get the speed right, get the hurdle technique right, and then put it together and gradually raise the hurdles and then gradually increase the speed. So that's more of an overview. So now I want to break down one of the key components of helping a beginner to learn how to three-step, which is speed and specifically sprint mechanics. Because the most important thing in a hurdle race is to go fast. It really is that simple, and speed can cover up or at least compensate for mistakes in technique, whereas good technique can't really compensate for a lack of speed. So you want your young hurdlers to start off, being aggressive, being in attack mode, and not being afraid of making mistakes, okay? And that begins before you put a hurdle up, okay? So sprint mechanics are so important because any mistakes in sprint mechanics will carry over to hurdle mechanics, as I've said time and time again. So if you have back kick in your sprinting stride, your lead leg is going to swing from the hip no matter how hard you try to lead with the knee, okay? Same thing with the trail leg. If you have back kick, your trail leg is going to flatten out and it's going to drop when you come off the hurdle. No matter how hard you try to bring it up high and tight, you're not going to be able to do it. So a lot of times people get frustrated because they can't get the hurdle components down pat. But the problem is rooted in their sprint mechanics. So when we, in my camps that I do and the academies that I conduct, when we teach sprint mechanics, we're teaching it as hurdle mechanics, as the beginning level hurdle mechanics. So when you're talking about being dorsiflex with the ankle, landing on the ball of the foot, driving up the knee and the heel together, that's hurdle mechanics. But it starts as sprint mechanics because if you're not doing that when you're sprinting, you're not going to be able to do it when you get to the hurdle. Okay, and the other part is proper sprint mechanics makes it easier to run faster. So you're running faster with less effort. Okay, so with beginners, I'll spend a whole session just on drills, sprint drills, without putting a hurdle up because we got to get that stuff down first. Okay, and gradually build that confidence in the speed element so that when we do put the hurdles up, the athlete already is in the habit of running with good mechanics and running fast and aggressively. Okay, so I have 3 basic drills, and they're basic as they get, that I use to teach sprint mechanics. It's the A march, the A skip, and high knee cycles. So when we do our hurdle academies, we'll spend the bulk of the first session, a good 2 hours or so, just doing those 3 drills. So the A march is designed to teach you exactly how the foot's supposed to be placed on the ground. It teaches you, the knee height and the heel height. Teaches you the upper body posture, slightly forward from pushing the chest forward, and moving the arms cheek to cheek, the hands cheek to cheek. So the A march is like the foundational drill for every sprinter / hurdler. All right, so we'll spend a lot of time on that because a lot of people don't dorsiflex, or they're dorsiflex on the way up and then plantar flex on the way down, or they're dorsiflex and then land on their heel. So you got really nitpick all that kind of stuff. Okay. Once they graduate from the A march, we move to the A skip, and the A skip is about learning to do the same thing. Staying dorsy, staying on the balls of your feet, pushing the chest forward, okay? But it's also about learning how to push off the back foot, okay? Because that's a key component in the style of hurdling that I teach. Pushing off the back foot is what helps to propel you through the hurdle. So you want to kind of get in the habit of that with your sprinting, okay? Don't just do the A skip properly. Do it with the intent to cover some ground each stride, okay? Because the whole point is to learn how to cover ground if you're learning how to 3-step, okay? I always say, you can cover more ground than you need to, than you ever could in a race, because you can always tone it down a notch if you have to if you're getting too close or too crowded between hurdles, okay? But start off with a sprinter mindset, 100-meter runner's mindset, which is cover ground. So the A skip we're using not only for the technical aspects like the A march, but also to learn how to push off that back leg, push the hips forward, and don't rely on the reaching with the foot to cover ground. Rely on the push of the back leg and rely on the hips pushing forward to cover ground. The knee and heel still come up. They don't go kicking out, that foot kicking out. Okay, got to stay disciplined with that. Okay, so we're big on that. And then the final drill is a high knee cycle drill, which at our academies, we will have a coach stand in front of the hurdlers and kind of just set the pace, because a lot of people do high knee cycles that go too fast. And the whole point there is to put together the A march and the A skip and take the skip part out of the A skip and just keep cycling the legs the whole time. And without losing, the goal is to not lose your upper body posture, not to let your chest sink in, not to let your hands drop or get lower or get wishy-washy, and to keep the angles of the knee coming up to where the thigh is parallel and to where the heel is under the hamstring, okay? And so the high knee cycle is more challenging because it's more fatiguing. And once they get that right, then we're good to go, okay? And from there, I would say, in trying to build confidence and speed is you want to have at least one day a week, even in the fall, where you do speed work, like flying 30s or 40s or 50s, or maybe a ladder of 30, 40, 50, something like that, to get that turnover going and get that sprint mechanics going. Okay, because if they're not used to dorsiflexing when they run, it's going to feel weird and awkward at first. It's going to feel slower at first because the feet aren't patterning as quickly. And to people who don't dorsiflex, quick feels fast. And so running properly with covering more ground feels slow. Kind of give them time to get used to that, okay? And eventually running properly does feel fast, and it feels even faster and faster and faster as they get the hang of it, okay? And then at that point, once the speed foundation is there, okay, we can feel confident that the hurdling is going to be aggressive, okay? Because you can't have good technique but run slow and passive, because you're not going to be able to three-step consistently, okay? So step one, so hurdle technique is not being dismissed. I'll talk about that in the next video. But step one, the most important thing, if you're trying to get a beginner to three-step, is get their sprint mechanics right and get their speed up, so that even when they're making mistakes with the hurdle technique, they can sprint through it, and their mindset is such that they can sprint through it, okay? So that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching, and next video will be about bringing in the hurdle technique to help a beginner to three-step consistently. All right, then I'm out.